At this point, we come to the stage where our keynote address, or our keynote addressee, will be gracing the stage. The message that will be delivered today is entitled Scientific Garveyism and the Power of Black Manhood. So we can give it up as a call forward, brother Tafadzwa, ShakaRa, Mbandaka. Yeah.
Tell our brothers and sisters. Garvey lives. Messiah lives. Garvey lives. Messiah lives. Garvey lives. Messiah lives. Everybody feeling alright? Yeah. First of all, Kings of Lead, before I go into the team, I have to give thanks to the leadership of the Alkebu-Lan movement under the leadership of our spiritual leader, Brother Mbandaka, for instituting this team what we call the month of Messiah. And I do hope that throughout the presentation you will get an appreciation for why months like these are so very, very important, Kings and Queens, whereby we're honouring a man like Marcus Messiah Garvey, but not just a man like Marcus Messiah Garvey, but an organisation like the UNIA-ACL and a movement like the Garvey movement or the Back to Africa movement or whatever brothers and sisters of the time used to call it, Kings and Queens. But it's so very important, and this has been going on since the year 1998, and it's not easy to keep something like this going, Kings and Queens, for 18 years, Kings and Queens. So can we hear Brother Mbandaka and the leadership that's going about this movement. Sit down, brother. Shouting out my brother Jahazo in the building. If you don't know, get to know Brother Jahazo. It's good to see him there. Good thank you for reaching out. As you heard, Kings and Queens, and I think my time is probably shorter than it was scheduled, so let me know, guide me at some point, yeah? But in relation to the subject matter today, scientific Garveyism, yeah? And the power of black manhood. And if you're a serious Garveyite today, Kings and Queens, you will realize and know that the phrase scientific Garveyism is a little bit redundant, yeah? Just a little piece. Because to say Garveyism is really to say scientific. There's nothing about Garveyism that is not scientific. And to say scientific is to say Garveyism. If you're a real Garveyite, you already knew that, Kings and Queens. But we have to, when we're in certain spaces and times and context, we have to create certain redundant terminology sometimes to explain certain phenomena. And the reason why we come up with this particular phraseology, Kings and Queens, in the Alkebu-Lan movement is first and foremost because in our internal study, Brother Leah has been teaching about the importance of knowing law, yeah? Science as law and natural law. And then our pioneer, Brother Olatuki here, who said we need to begin teaching about the concept of scientific Garveyism. And what that said to me was that we need to take our appreciation of the life and legacy of Marcus Messiah Garvey on another level. In other words, Kings and Queens, that the reference of Marcus Messiah Garvey is not enough. Being able to recite and quote and say, Garvey did, the UNIA achieved, this is the man that laid the black print, is not enough. To come here and say, Garvey lives, is not sufficient unless we are living Garvey. To come here and say Messiah lives is not sufficient unless we are living Messiah. Messiah only lives to the extent that we are living Messiah. And so as a part of that process, we need to do some more in-depth analysis, research, and actualization of the black print that we say we follow. Scientific Garveyism. That means really that Garveyism is scientific, you know. But we have to get more scientific in our appreciation of Garvey. What did I hear that? I said Garvey is scientific. But we have to get more scientific in our appreciation of Marcus Garvey. Scientific Garveyism. Everybody hear me? So bear with me now, Kings and Queens. I'm going to go over some things that you may know, some things that you may not know. I'm going to redefine and realize something that we know so that we get a greater appreciation of what it is we're talking about. Everybody with me? Yeah. So as we go forward, kings and queens, we say science. What is science? In order to understand what science is, I consulted. That's a rhetorical question, Brother Bob. Rhetorical question, yeah? This is not Galaxy Radio, alright? Okay. Alright. In order to understand what science is, I consulted Mr. Oxford. It's the English language, right? Mr. Oxford is the authority. Not true. Yeah? Oxford said it. Alright. So Mr. Oxford said, science, the intellectual and practical activity encompassing the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation and experiment. Yeah? I don't have a lot of time, so I'm not going to repeat that. You have to follow me. Follow me. Alright? Okay. Scientific, now that's science. Scientific, based on or characterized by the methods and principles of science. So once we observe and experimented, we can come up with certain rules and regulations, and therefore that which is scientific is that which abides by or is produced as a result of abiding by those rules and regulations. Everybody with me? But we're African set of individuals, kings and queens. And you know, African set of people, we have a thing we have to do. We're just redefine English language. And mash it up. You know what I'm saying? Where we see fit. Yeah? So you know that in the African set of circles, certain times we don't say we. There is no we in certain African set of circles. It's just I. You understand what I'm saying? Are you following me? Yeah. So there is no second person, it's just I. Because you is I and I is you. In other words, I and I. Yeah. You following me, kings and queens? Science is not science, you know. Alright, you know that. Alright? So in Alkebu-Lan, kings and queens, we say science is natural law. Why is that important, kings and queens? Science is natural law or knowledge that has been tested and proven. So Brother Leader teaches. Science is natural law or knowledge that has been tested and proven. The importance of natural law to African-centered people. African-centered individuals in our African tradition, we understand, observe and learn, gain knowledge through our interaction with nature. The fundamental laws that we abide by are the laws of nature. So for the African, understanding natural law is the preeminent science or the preeminent scientific endeavor. Is everybody with me? Yeah? I'm going to come back to that later on, so bear that in mind, kings and queens. Yeah? We go forward, kings and queens. In our study, we also define this thing called art. And you know, in the British education system, we were taught to separate science from art. Not true? Yeah? Well, if science is knowledge that has been tested and proven, art for the African is skill and craft in the application of knowledge. Therefore, there is no separation between science and art. As much as you are scientific, you have to be artistic. To put scientific understanding into practice requires creativity, artistry, skill and craft in the application of knowledge, kings and queens. Is everybody with me? Yeah. So when we listen to Marcus Messiah Garvey, the term scientific Garveyism is so very apt. Because Marcus Garvey was a man who spoke about science and being scientific. In our daily affirmations, you will see an affirmation entitled The Science of Success. Yeah. So then, as I get into this now, this is the introduction, you know, kings and queens, right? As I get into the thing, the science of success, Papa Garvey says, the men and women who eat up everything they lay their hands on, go to their graves unwept, unsung, and unhonored. They eat themselves into all kinds and forms of diseases, and so we bury them by the thousands every year. But the men and women who reduce life to a science, to a what? Science. They live happier, they live longer, they get more joy and happiness out of life. Papa Garvey is saying to us that we should live our lives scientifically. In other words, science is not something that you learn when you go to school, or college, or university. Science is a daily endeavor. And we should reduce our lives to a science. That means, given the definitions that I've given earlier, our life endeavor is to acquire knowledge and reflect skill and craft in the application of that knowledge. Everybody with me? Oh, no, sure. Okay, kings and queens. Right? So as a result of that now, contemplating the message, yeah, and asking Brother Olatunji, what did it mean? Where was he going when you said scientific Garveyism, kings and queens? Where was he going with that? So I asked him that, and I've got these story areas guys, so I'll talk about certain things. Yeah? And I talked about law and natural law. Well, I'm gonna explain some of what I believe to be the laws of scientific Garveyism. And I'd like to suggest to you, brothers and sisters, that the overarching law, the primary law of Garveyism is the law of African redemption. That's the law that Papa Garvey was trying to effect. The law of African redemption. And to illustrate this law, Papa Garvey said if 400 million African people could only get to know themselves in the next 24 hours, we will have a new race, a nation, an empire resurrected. The law, we get to know ourselves in the next 24 hours, we will have a what? New nation, new empire resurrected. Yeah? In other words, kings and queens, nation building, nationhood conceptuality begins with our concept of self. Now I know for some people who deal with our kind of ideologies, I ain't said that yet, because I haven't used words like capitalism, socialism, communism, proletariat, proletariat, dialectics, and whatever, bourgeoisie, petty bourgeoisie, and all these French terms, brothers and sisters, that we use. Aristocrats, capitalist, I ain't said none of that yet. For some of you, I ain't said nothing at all. But, and I'm going home and I learned something there. Right? But, kings and queens, Papa Garvey telling us that if we don't get to know ourselves, we'll be a new people tomorrow. This is scientific. Why is that scientific? Getting to know yourself is a key component of liberation for a people who, through their oppression, was based upon robbing them of a knowledge of self. Is that what you mean? Yes. In order to restore yourself, you have to get the knowledge of self. Yeah? And this is deep, kings and queens, because our ancient ancestors of the Nile Valley said, know thyself. That's right. Yeah. You understand what I said? Yeah. Papa Garvey said, knowledge begins with knowledge of self. Y'all didn't hear what I'm saying. That's the law of African redemption, kings and queens. Yeah? Then now we have the law of race first. The law, now normally we define these as the principles of African fundamentalism, which is the philosophy of Papa Garvey, African fundamentalism. We define them as the defining principles. But today we're dealing with science. So we're going to deal with laws. The law of race first. A very serious law. In a world of wars, as the children said earlier, one must go on. And one of the most powerful defensive weapons of the region African people is the practice of race first. In all parts of the world, yes, put your race first, like all other races do. Why was it scientific? Papa Garvey says we hear the cry of England for the Englishman, of France for the Frenchman, of Germany for the German, of Japan for the Japanese, of Ireland for the Irish, of China for the Chinese. Yeah? Now we are raising the cry of Africa for the Africans. Race first. And all people who have gone through oppression, when they seek to liberate themselves, check it out, kings and queens, all around the world. Start with race first. We are the only people. Because we start with some of our ideology that try to do on some of our basis first. Race last, or race in the midst of something else that is primary over race. Yeah? I'm not going to go into that one too much because we ain't got time, kings and queens. But it's very important that we understand the law of race first. Everybody with me? Yeah. Then now we have the law of self-reliance. The law of what? Self-reliance. is the only argument that satisfies man, Papa Garvey says. Except the individual have power. The nation, the race, has power. That is exclusive. Do we know what exclusive means? Exclusive means that our power is our own. It is exclusively ours. It excludes others from accessing its kings and queens. Yeah? Except the individual, the nation, the race has power that is exclusive. That individual, nation or race will be bound by the will of others who possess this great qualification. The African must get power. In other words, kings and queens, our oppression is not simply based upon, how other people feel about us. It's not simply based upon the fact that somebody got up one day and decided that black people were ugly and that we worship the devil and that Africa was a barren continent. These people instituted a power dynamic. And so if Africans are to liberate ourselves, we must be concerned with power. We have to understand and know what power is. As an individual, as a nation, and as a race. That means we must be concerned with our individual power and our collective power if we are to liberate ourselves. Everybody with me? You see, because they say in this world that power corrupts. That's what because corrupted people are the ones in power. Going simply along kings and queens, the law of nationhood. No race is free unless it has a nation of its own. Yeah, its own system of government, its own order of society. Never give up this idea. Never be satisfied to always live under the government of other people because you will always be at their mercy. Visualize for yourself and your children and generations unborn your own kings, emperors, presidents, your own government officials and administrators who look like you. The law of nationhood. How is the law of nationhood scientific? Let's break it down, kings and queens. You see, people say that the UNIA, ACO, was an organization. The current President General says the UNIA is not just an organization, the UNIA is a government. What's the importance of that? We are a people who have suffered oppression, and as a result of that oppression have been disempowered from effecting our own power. So therefore, as small, the most minuscule organization must be about training our people, educating our people, organizing our people to be able to restore our nationhood. That means that organization ain't about planning events. Yeah? Putting on a good plan celebration. You follow me? As a part of our organization, we must be about structuring it, even as we are, as a nation. Because through that process, we teach our people, as Baba John Henry Clark calls it, nation management. That means we teach ourselves from in the smallest configuration we find ourselves to be able to make things for ourselves, to be able to provide services for. That is why the UNIA had presidents and president generals and lady commanders of the Order of the Nile and its own nursing agency, its own army. Yeah? Before we had land that we could call our own, we have to educate ourselves, reorganize ourselves to learn how to manage a nation. Is everyone with me? So the law of nationhood is very important in terms of how we organize our organizations and even how we organize our families. Our families must be organized like mini nations so that the children of those families grow up knowing how to control a nation. Yeah? If you know me, you know I'm dealing with a lot of African-centered education right about now. And as a part of the presentation that I do, understanding African-centered education, I look at schools like Eton and Harrow. You know what Eton and Harrow is? Eton and Harrow are the top secondary schools of this country, where they got intake of like 800 children. Yeah? All boys. Yeah? And Eton has produced 19 prime ministers of Britain. I ain't spoken about our politicians, cabinet members, and whatever else. Just prime ministers alone, 19. And in the research that I was doing, I came across a quote from an ex-Eton student who said, students went to school, secondary school, 11 years old, with the knowledge, the sense that when they left, they were going to run the country. Y'all didn't hear what I said. 11-year-old white boys are going to school knowing that when they leave school, they're going to run the country and run the nation. What do we learn when we go to school? Go to school, get good grades, get a good job. So you can pay taxes to the guy who went to Eton. That's the difference between oppressive education and nation-building education, kings and queens. The law of nationhood we need to learn. The law of nationhood, kings and queens. Yeah? Then now, kings and queens, we got the law. You know you're a real speaker when you get one of these little time notes. You know you've reached. Yeah? You know what I'm saying? Proper things, alright? Then we got a very important law, kings and queens. We got the law of African spiritual orthodoxy. But today, I'm calling it the law of the black God. The law of what? The law, you know what I'm saying? You're not speaking to me like God right now, you know, kings and queens. The law of what? If the white man has an ideal of a white God, let him worship his God as he sees, as he desires. If the yellow man's God is of his race, let him worship his God as he sees fit. That means leave him to his kings. Let him alone. We're now troubling the yellow man and the yellow God. We're now troubling us hard. The God of Isaac and the God of Jacob, let him exist for the race who believe the God of Isaac and the God of Jacob. We Africans believe in the God of Ethiopia, Africa. The black God. The who? The one God of all ages, that is the God in whom we believe, and we shall worship him, her, through the spectacles of Ethiopia. The law of the black God. Papa Bobby says in another quote, God is universal. Listen carefully now, I'm getting to the crux of the thing right now. God is what? Universal intelligence. God being universal intelligence created the universe out of that intelligence. It is intelligence that creates. That's right. In another quote, Papa Bobby says, intelligence rules the world. Ignorance carries the burden. It is intelligence that creates. Intelligence rules the world. Ignorance carries the burden. We are ignorant because of our lack of ability to create. And therefore, we're carrying the burden. I don't think you are hearing me, though. Man and woman being are a part of creation. So universal intelligence and man and woman were created in the image and likeness of God. It is the intelligence of humankind that is like God. But human intelligence is only a unitary particle of universal intelligence. What does that mean, kings and queens? That means if each of us as individuals are unitary particles of universal intelligence, what happens when we collectivize our intelligence? Intelligence what? Creates. We can create individually, we can create collectively. So when we collectivize our intelligence and manifest our collective intelligence, we in turn become God. God-like. Remember I said that, I know I put my quote earlier, in terms of knowing self, aligns with our teachers or our ancient ancestors in the letter. Again, the same thing happens. Yeah, because when the President General, Baba Senghor Jawara came here in 2008, he spoke and delivered a message that was based upon the 7 principles or laws of Djibouti. That's what he spoke about. That was the foundation of his message. Yeah? And the first law of Djibouti is what is known as the law of mentalism, which says that all is mind. The universe is mental. God is universal intelligence. All is mind. The universe is meant. God is universal intelligence. All is mind. The universe is mental.
Yeah. Come on. Word, sound, and power. Break it down.
So, you know, in Islam, yeah, or certain aspects of Islam, they say, when they're praising Allah, they say the Lord of all the worlds. Yeah? What does that mean? That, I understand that there's more than one world. Yeah? But the Lord of inside aspects of Islam, they say the Lord of all the worlds, and they're praising Allah. Yeah? Respect, there's more than one world. Yeah? So them people, they have their own world. World is not a noun that relates to the planet. Yeah? Or the universe. World is a social order, a social force. So when we create for ourselves, we create our own world. Yeah? Is everybody with me? Yeah. Alright? When we talk about the African world view, kings and queens. Yeah? Now, brothers and sisters, we get back to science. Because Papa Garvey said, we must teach the higher development of science to our children. For in religion and science lies our only hope to withstand the evils of modern materialism. Listen to the juxtaposition now. In religion and science. I'm going to replace the word religion with spirituality. In spirituality and science lies our only hope to withstand the evils of modern materialism. What does that mean, kings and queens? See, we spoke about how science is about understanding, knowing, natural law, the natural universe. Yeah? They who fail to master their material reality are slaves to their material reality. Those who fail to master their material reality are slaves to their material reality. But even more importantly, those who are not spiritually in tune with their material reality objectify their material reality. Capitalism. From an African-centered perspective. I didn't read Marx to come up with that. Yeah? No Marx, no Engels, no Trotsky, none of them. In the African conceptuality, those who are spiritually out of tune with their material reality objectify it. Once you objectify the material reality, you're not in tune with it, you don't seem to harmonize with it, therefore you destroy it. That's why we need things like Go Green campaign today, kings and queens. Everybody with me? Yeah. Alright, kings and queens. Now, I've got 5 minutes left. We're at the point where we deal with, and I was touching on things, you know, this concept called scientific Garveyism. The whole point is that we have to delve into the philosophy and practice of Marcus Garvey in more detail to understand what exactly he was dealing with. Yeah? To really treat it in this day and age. It makes no sense talking about in by the Black Star Line when we don't study how that was brought about. You understand? Scientific. Some people, we had a debate the other day, and I always said, I love Marcus Garvey, but his economics was capitalist. We just have to accept that his economics was capitalist. Let's explore that one thing scientifically for a second. Look at the Legal Factory Corporation. Yeah? Look at the Black Star Line steamship company. Yeah? How was this paid for? Anybody know? The people, how? Wait, what did you say? Buying shit. Wait. So, I didn't say donating money. I said buying shares. What's the difference? They're investing. When you invest, you have what? Control and? I'm looking for another word that begins with O. Ownership. That means that these, as Garvey said, put to the service of the African people of the world. And that's free because the African people of the world own it. They have an interest in it. a law of African nationhood to me. Get scientific. So that means our organizations have to be producing goods, services, and institutions that our people can own. Even as we manage it, but our people own it because they invested in it. Scientific Garveyism, kings and queens. Yeah? Garvey. Another thing we learned is that Marcus Garvey, the UNIA, mastered the media of their day. Yes. That was the printed word. Right. They mastered it. The Negro World newspaper was an international newspaper, written in 3 different languages. At a time when African people were just coming off the plantation and could barely read and write. Come on. Y'all ain't hearing it. Scientific Garveyism. But the point is that he mastered the media of his day. Have we mastered the media of our day, kings and queens? And that is even more critical today because they say we live in the information age, where media is the primary currency of power. Kwame Ture says our current fight is the war of ideas. Are we winning the war of ideas? Let me give you another example. You see Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all of them, which are the primary institutions that are forwarding media at the moment. It's called social media, whereby people have their own form of media just by signing up to Facebook for free, and Twitter, and YouTube, or whatever else like that. Revolutionize communications in this day and age. So because of that, they say we live in the information age. Yeah? So the question, now all of those things here, nationhood, young white men, university, every single one of them, almost, was started by young white men in their 20s in universities. Yeah? Rich background, and why is it free? Because their rich uncles and daddies and so on, as the dean of the university, invested in them. Yeah? So they're being trained to create what we consume. They're mastering the media that they indoctrinate us with. Papa Bobby said we must raise a generation of scientists par excellence. That means not just good, not even just excellent. Par excellence means excellent even in comparison to other forms of excellence. So we're not even just mastering what they are. We're creating what is to come. Mastery. Are we trained in organization? Are we training and raising the next generation of scientists par excellence? If we're not doing that, we're not dealing with scientific Garveyism. Alright. I'm going to try and wrap it up in 2 minutes now. The power of black manhood. Yeah? Very serious subject. I'm not going to do justice, kings and queens. However, certain things need to be said. We're living in, so I don't run out of time, let's come straight to a second. We're living in a very serious time in which there's a very sinister attack against the black man. Black African manhood. Mama Kai spoke about African womanhood earlier, and you're going to hear more on the 23rd of Messiah. Sister Nahanda, who is now in the room, and Mama Kai will break it down. And I say that to say, because whenever we begin to talk about manhood in this day and age, somebody goes and says, what about the sisters? And the sisters need to be picked up, and the black woman need to talk about the black woman. Right now, we are talking about manhood. Everybody with me? And somebody, it's problematic nowadays for us to discuss manhood. In this day and age, kings and queens, society is making a concept of manhood, black manhood in particular, either redundant or oppressive. You hear me? The white man and his woman are equating African manhood with white male patriarchy. And promoting it as an oppressive force in today's world. manhood. In particular, African manhood that is particularly interested in forming unions with African women. On the areas? You sure? That's what they're doing right about now, kings and queens. I'm saying, kings and queens, that today, the African man who is particularly interested in forming unions with African women is being regarded and promoted as an oppressive force in the world and in the African community in particular. And I'm saying, kings and queens, that for that reason alone, we need a defined and definitive focus on the concept of African manhood. We need, as men, African men, to sit down and develop some mutually beneficial codes of accountability among us as men. Serious business. The best way to defeat white male patriarchy is manifesting African manhood. Don't let nobody fool you. The best way to defeat white male patriarchy is manifesting African manhood. And we can't do that in the state that we're in today. We have to resurrect the law of African redemption. We need the law of African manhood redemption. The law of the redemption of African manhood. We have to go through the process as men of analyzing where we have gotten our concept of manhood from, dissecting it, breaking it down systematically, understanding what our goals are, and creating the character to be able to meet those goals. Honestly speaking. Lastly, community, my time is up. We're family, right? We're family? Are you sure? Yeah. No. So if I tell you something now, I'm going to take it outside the answer, right? We're family, yeah? See, when it comes to transforming myself as a man, my number one example is Omar Malcolm X. Yeah? This is a man. I'll give you one example why. This is a man who was a pimp, hustler, a disrespecter of African women. And he says that from the time he went to prison to the time he married his wife, Mbandaka, he never touched a woman. That's years, you know. How many years was it? Like 12 years? No physical contact of an intimate kind with a woman. Now, I ain't claiming to have reached that level of spiritual ascendancy. I'm not claiming that. But I'm saying whatever the case, there's an example in it, kings and queens. In terms of us being able to look into ourselves and create a character that is able to atone with our sisters. Because one of the key weapons that is being used against us is our discord with our sisters. And we have to go through the work of mending that breach. The best way to mend it is not to debate feminists. It's to manifest African manhood. Recently I found out, brothers and sisters, that there's a brother going around the community chatting something about ShakaRa. Yeah? Saying some things. I ain't gonna tell you what he said. Alright? For those who like big business. Right? But the fact is, what he's saying ain't true. He heard from one sister that I used to be involved with, and you know, he's taking that now and running around the community, apparently. Alright? What he's saying ain't true. But the truth is that there were some things that I didn't do in that situation that weren't too correct. Some positions that I did find myself in that I shouldn't have. And because of that, some actions that I did go on with that I shouldn't have, kings and queens. And I've gone through the process. And I'm still going through the process in many regards of trying to atone for that, brothers and sisters. You know what I mean? Yeah. I need you right now. I'm being vulnerable in front of people. You know what I'm saying? Don't deserve me right now. Yeah? But the point I'm trying to make is, kings and queens, is that the fact that what he said is not correct doesn't negate my responsibility for continuing to take responsibility for where I went wrong. I continue to correct that. Now I'm committed to the next direction. What are you saying, fam? We are going to carry on around the place. But no, the primary thing is to focus on self. And continue to correct self. And I'm saying that the more we do that as brothers, the better we will be able to manifest complementarity again with the African woman as was manifested in the UNIA balance of leadership between the African man and woman, kings and queens. This has been my time. Scientific Garveyism and the power of African manhood. I thank you for listening. Thank you.